Hello and welcome to the Productive Wellbeing Show with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. And today is episode 11. And I am so excited to be joined by the amazing Lauren Chiren, who is a mental health expert. And today she's going to talk to us about anxiety, because this is something that is coming up in every conversation that I'm having and every conversation that Lauren's having with her clients. So we felt that this would be a beneficial conversation for you. So as with every show, if you're joining live, say live. If you're joining on the replay, say replay. If you've got a question, leave it in the comments. We'll try to answer your questions as we're going through, if we possibly can. Otherwise, we're going to hop online after this and get answering your questions. So Lauren, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's fantastic. I'm really grateful to the opportunity to chat with you. And 11 is one of my lucky numbers. So great episode to be on as well.
Amazing. Well, we're 11:11 today, aren't we? Because it's 11 o'clock and yeah, episode 11. So it's auspicious.
There we go.
So also I need to say, Lauren is the founder of Women of a Certain Age. This is the business that she runs. So just to give you that little bit of extra information there. So Lauren, let's dive into this $10 million question. What the heck is anxiety? Because I personally used to think that for years I was actually depressed. I didn't realize that I was anxious. So what is anxiety? What isn't anxiety? I think that would be a useful place to start. And guys, as you're joining, say in the comments if you're live, and if you've got any questions, leave them in there as well. It'd be so awesome to hear from you.
Excellent. So it's really interesting. I think from a really simplistic point of view, sometimes we feel low or we feel down or we feel depressed, and other times we feel quite anxious and uptight, and they're like opposite sides. So anxiety is kind of like the flip side of a coin of excitement. You can feel a bit anxious if you're about to speak on stage or you're going to meet someone for the first time. And it's that kind of nervous tension, which can be healthy and can help the adrenaline get going when you're gearing up to do something new. But it can also become quite crippling as well if it overtakes your ability to function and to do things going forward. Typically, anxiety is when we're worried about something on the tomorrow or later, something that's in front of us in the future. Whereas depression tends to be about stuff that's happened in the past. It tends to be things that we can't change, but we're still stuck with the feelings and emotions of things that have happened in the past. So yes, typically anxiety, and this isn't strictly like a medical terminology, but typically anxiety is about things coming up, and depression tends to be about things that have gone on before.
So if I am trying to understand if it's anxiety that I'm actually feeling, what kind of things would I be feeling? What would I be experiencing?
So typically it would be things like feeling slightly nervous about something, feeling weary, possibly having palpitations, raised heart rate. You might even be, if it's quite extreme, you could find that you are having a bit of what we'd call a panic attack, that your heart rate's really high and it's really difficult to control your breath. It could just be that sense of foreboding about going forward to do something and moving forward into the future. So lots of different physiological experiences and psychological experiences as well.
So in these uncertain times that we're all finding ourselves in right now, it's going to be anxiety about working from a different environment, maybe. How can I still be professional and share the kitchen table with my husband and my kids are in the other room? And are these the kinds of things that do you think would be coming up for people from an anxiety point of view?
Yeah, certainly. Excuse me. The last couple of weeks that I've been talking to my clients, we've switched over to doing kind of strategy sessions so that they can prepare for the new reality. Because at the end of the day, those of us, excuse me, those of us that are not going out to work at the moment and we're trying to work from home or working from home, we need to have a new strategy, because what our normal was, we're almost, and I don't particularly like using this terminology right now, but we're almost grieving for what we had. And without knowing what that future holds, it can leave us in this really uncertain space. And then if you layer on top of that the fact that we can't control all the circumstances we used to be able to control, then we can feel very much like everything's out of our control. And that's when people can start to get really super anxious, really feel like they're not going to be able to be the perfect partner or mother or, father. They may not be able to be professional and continue to work. But what we have to remember is no one is in this alone. We're all in this together, and we're all facing similar challenges. So depending on our individual circumstances, we might suddenly have found that we only saw our family 1 or 2 days at the weekend, and all of a sudden we're with them 24/7. And that could be anything from 2 people in a household to 7 or 8 people in a household, and that can be really difficult. So boundaries become really important, communication becomes really important, and actually having a strategy. And this is what I'm working with my clients just now. It's about just taking that time out, either on your own or with someone, to sit down and figure out what is it you're trying to achieve, what is your priority, what's got an urgent deadline, and what actually isn't that important anymore whatsoever. And I think people are coming to that realization quite quickly. But having a personal strategy, having a routine, knowing what your commitments are for the week ahead and for the day ahead can just calm your mind and just keep you feeling more restful and more peaceful, so that you can actually function at the type of level you want to be functioning at.
Amazing. Because could one of the sort of stages of all of this be paralysis? And mind fog, is this a symptom of anxiety where you just can't think straight?
Yeah, I think we already lived in a world that was full of, information overload, right? How often did you ever clear your email inbox? How often did you actually get through all your tasks for the day? How often were you reading things and consuming things from social media, from friends, from family, on billboards? Everywhere we go, we're on 24/7. And then we've layered on top of that all these new working circumstances, the working from home, the social distancing, potentially, like myself, this is my 3rd week of social isolation because I've got a child with lifelong medical needs. So, we were already at information overload. We already had a population of people that were struggling with anxiety, but silently struggling with it. And now we're layering a whole new level of information on top of that. And our dopamine, our brains just cannot take that all in. We need time to just go, time out, breathe, absorb, switch off, reboot, plan, have a strategy, and genuinely recognize for you, not for anyone else, but for you, what is important. And when I say for you, I genuinely mean that. You need to put yourself first now more than any other time in your life, because there's so much change going on, and we are, trying to adapt to so many new ways of being, ways of working, ways of interacting with people. And we've suddenly got new social media popping up. We've got other platforms and other types of communication. So instead of maybe 5 or 6 platforms you were working on before, you might have 8 or 9. So it's really about just really thinking about what is it that's going to serve you. Because when you look after yourself first, you can look after other people even better. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you put yourself first.
Amazing. So Dr. Bruni is saying she totally agrees that a reboot plan and having a strategy. So thank you for sharing that. So I don't know about you, but I am really starting to feel a little bit better from hearing you kind of describe it, because like I said, it's a word, but it's not necessarily a word that has too much kind of description around what does it mean. So thank you for sort of explaining it in a little bit more detail. So the second question then is, what are some things, and you've already shared a couple, but what are some things that are your absolute go-to for controlling and managing your anxiety on a day-to-day basis, and then in the current situation?
Sure, of course. So I think, again, it's just being really cognizant of the fact that, we are living in unprecedented times, and that it's okay not to feel okay. First of all, just accept that. As long as you realize that it's okay not to have all the answers, it's okay not to be able to do everything the way you used to be able to do it, and that sometimes you just need to switch off. So I'm inviting everyone I work with just to find a couple of hours in the day, certainly one day every week, where they're off of the social media, they're off of media, they're potentially off of all screens, just to give their brains an opportunity to settle back down again. We live in this permanent kind of fight and flight in our sympathetic nervous systems, whereby we're on the go. And that can be really constructive and keep us achieving and keeping us on the go. But one of the reasons we get quite sick when we go on holiday is because we suddenly slow down and we allow our parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. Well, right now, we actually need to make sure we are switching out of our fight and flight and get into what I call, parasympathetic, the rest and digest part of our central nervous system, so that we can access our creativity, our good decision-making ability, our body's ability to recuperate and to regenerate. So what I say, two things I always think are really crucial, is to have a regular go-to-bed routine, a regular wake-up routine. So whichever times they are for you, and they'll be different for everybody, but if you have a couple of hours in the evening, and we're talking about wherever you're at right now, if you can make 1% progress towards this each day, day in, day out, it's just about making a little bit of progress. It's not about perfection. So if you currently don't have a routine, don't suddenly try and have 2 hours of a routine beforehand, but maybe just have 10 to 15 minutes whereby once you've brushed your teeth, you're just sitting quietly, perhaps listening to some nice music, doing a meditation, maybe journaling some things that you're really grateful for that have gone well that day, but being screen free, and maybe just add 1 or 2 minutes each night before you go to bed. So having a great nighttime routine, going to bed at the same time every night where you can, and I appreciate with shift work that's not possible, but where that's possible, to try and have a regular routine and stay in bed or stay relaxed if you're not sleeping, just calm for 7 to 8 hours, and then get up and get out of your bed, have a shower, do whatever it is your morning routine is, whether that's getting up and having exercise or meditating or yoga, whatever that happens to be, but keep those hours regular. Having a regular pattern is really helpful for the body and the brain to work well together. I do go into sleep with a lot more detail because at the moment I recognise a lot of people aren't sleeping terribly well. It's not unusual to go to bed and sleep for between 3.5 and 4 hours and then wake up. That's not unusual at all. And depending on your personality and what you choose to do, don't fret about waking up. Either just lie there calmly and just, do some breathing exercises or some meditation and you'll naturally fall asleep again, or get up, do something productive for half an hour and then go back to bed. It doesn't matter, but you just find what works best for you. The other thing that I think goes hand in hand with this is being really well hydrated. So if you think about, your body is made up of 65-75% water, depending on your age and stage of life. It's really super important to be hydrated. Your brain, your body systems, your digestion, nothing works properly unless you're well hydrated. So if you're struggling with anxiety, with brain fog, if you're finding concentrating, making decisions, holding information, if you said to me that you had to read a chapter of a book or read a line 7 times before that information sunk in just now, that would not be unusual right now. Yeah, because we've got so much information coming our way. But being hydrated, having a good sleep pattern are really 2 critical things. The other obvious ones are getting great nutrition in, if you can get your hands on good quality food, eating regularly, not allowing your blood sugar levels to drop. So, having a meal every 3 to 4 hours. The whole nutrition thing varies on age and lifestyle, so there's lots more information in that space, but just eating regularly, making sure you've got good quality proteins and fats in your diet in all 3 meals, and carbohydrate, trying to stay away from alcohol, caffeine, sugar. They're all things that are going to heighten anxiety. They're all things that are going to trigger those feelings of jitteriness and just feeling unsettled and uncomfortable. So if you are struggling, certainly strip them out of your diet as far as you can. And again, it's about 1% improvement. If you're having 3 glasses of wine or G&Ts each night, knock 1 off. If you're having 10 cups of coffee, try taking 1 off. If you're reaching for the sugar, through the sweets or the biscuits right now, see if you can maybe just have half of what you go for each time you go for it. But what I invite you to do is just think about, what is the experience you're looking for when you reach for the sugar or the coffee or the glass of something at the end of the day? What is that experience that you're looking to have? Just give yourself a moment just to breathe and think about, what is the purpose of me having this drink or that sweet sugar, biscuit, cake, whatever it happens to be. and just start to get accustomed to thinking about what it is and why you're reaching for those things. Because once you can understand that, you can start to work with that and understand how you might be able to do things differently. But again, before you even start to change your behavior, just start to understand what your behavior is, why you're doing it. Is it habit? Is it boredom? Is it anxiety? Is it something else? Because once you know what that is, then we can start to look at what some alternatives might be and might work for you.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing all of those tips. And I guess this is everything that you're doing with your clients who are super fortunate to be able to work with you and dive deeper into all of this. So is there anything else that you would specifically like to share, or any sort of top takeaway that we can have in our mind for the rest of today?
Yeah, I think make sure you're connecting with 3 or 4 people every single day, preferably in face if you can. So whichever video apps you're using. So make sure you have got social interaction every day. Make sure that you are getting out in the fresh air, even if that is popping your head out your window. So just try and get some fresh air, move your body, try and raise your heart rate for 20 minutes every day, whether that's with your partner or whether it's by jogging on the spot in your kitchen, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but just try and raise your heart rate and get some good oxygen into your lungs. Make sure that you're getting some fresh air, and stay connected. Loneliness is a terrible thing, and that's not restricted to people who are on their own. It's different from being alone. So make sure that if you are well connected, then who can you think of that might not be? Who could you reach out to? See if you can maybe reach out to one new person every day just to see how they're doing as well.
That's great advice. And I'm smiling because when you said movement, I'm thinking I've been doing Joe Wicks's PE, kids PE. I don't have kids, but I just am using it as an opportunity to move with 500,000 people around the world, because there's energy associated with that. And well, thank you so much for your time today. Where can we find out more about you? Where is the best place? Where do you hang out the most?
So I hang out most on LinkedIn. So just my name, Lauren Chiren. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, that's probably where you're going to get most of the information I put out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. And some awesome tips. I'm going to be watching this back on the replay because I was making notes, but to make more notes. So guys, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you're watching on replay, remember, write replay. If you are around tomorrow, I would love to see you again at 11 tomorrow. We're going to be talking more about scheduling and how to get some kind of work-life balance going, because this is the biggest thing that we see right now with our clients, is people are just seriously struggling with how to juggle everything. They've got more time from their commute, but now they've got families and washing and kitchen tables and animals and all sorts going on. I think the schedules are getting more busy than they used to be before with all these online dates. So love to see you tomorrow at 11. And thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. And thank you, Lauren, for yours.
Pleasure.
Bye.